Data alone doesn't cut it, but data with the right context and insight, that's powerful. Octave will transform data and intelligence into decisions and action, creating harmony from complexity and composing sharper performance across industries, at any scale. From pipelines to power grids, emergency response to enterprise operations, Octave will champion customers with the resilient edge they need to scale onward and upward at speed. Our legacy? A launchpad built on excellence. Our expertise? Honed for what's next and always on call. Orchestrating a smarter world, empowering an unbreakable future, and unleashing the power of intelligence at scale. Let's get to work.
Please welcome Mattias Stenberg.
Right. All right. Welcome back. I see a lot of you made it back, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think we're going to have a exciting 45 minutes ahead of us here and talking about Octave and what we do. It's a little surreal, right? I mean, 2 hours ago, we were one of Hexagon's divisions, and now we're Octave. Not, locked, launched, and listed yet, but well on our way. So let me do a little test. What do you guys think of the new name? Make some noise. Good. I personally love it. I think it's great. And it was my first time going through a naming process like this, and it was a lot harder than I thought. And I thought I'd share a little bit, behind the scenes what was going on. For those of you who don't know, we have a fantastic marketing team at Hexagon, so thank you to those guys. But really everybody came out of the woodwork, wanting to help and come up with a name. And it took months. So I thought I'd share a few of those names that didn't make it. And we have a lot of people in the company that are very proud of their legacy. I call them the Intergraph nerds. No, I don't. So they came up with Hexagraph. I appreciate the sentiment, but I think we want to look forward, not backwards. And then also we have, obviously, in the company, a lot of engineers, right? A lot of smart people. So what do they do when they face a problem? They go into math, right? So anybody know what you get if you split a hexagon in two? A trapezoid. But to me, that felt more like we were creating a math problem than, the name of the company. The next one I'm going to show here combines two things that really, really annoy me. So this one went out quickly. The first thing is that a lot of people, they can't pronounce my name, right? I get a lot of Mattias, Matteus, Matisse, and all kinds of things. It's Mattias. So the other thing that annoys me now is that people want to put AI in everything, right? So combining those two, some clever people came up with this. What can you say about this robot? I think it also can't dance, just like the Aeon one. It is very good-looking robot, I think, but anyway. And then, of course, we have a lot of British people in the company. So they said, hell, shit, we've done this before. We know what it is. Hexit. So definite no to that one also, right? And then, what do you say? To be serious, like I said this morning, it is a bit bittersweet for me, and I think for many others. We have a lot of friends in Hexagon, right? And so with that sentiment, somebody came up with Hexagon. To that, I want to say, we're not quite gone yet, and we will always remember our roots in Hexagon, and we will, of course, have a very, very strong partnership with Hexagon for the future. We've been saying internally, this is not a divorce, it's a graduation, and we'll remain close partners. Also, if you look at the facts, we have a very big portfolio of solutions and brands, right, in Octave. So when you have that, people come and say, don't forget about me, right? The name needs to say something about my product or my solution area. So how do you combine all of this into one name, right, that represents something? It's not easy, right? It's going to take something special, something that communicates not only who we are, but also, the value proposition that we represent to our customers. So how could you possibly, condense that? How did we ever settle on Octave? It's pretty obvious, though, if you think about it. If you listen to the song there, that's one of my favorite songs, probably my favorite song. It's Can't Stop by Red Hot Chili Peppers. And you hear the raising of the octave there in the song, right? And to me, that's a good example how, raising a single note can really make the whole difference. And that was, to me, a little bit the inspiration with the octave, right? Taking something to the next level. Because that's what we will do for our customers, really take it to the next level. And I do think that music is a great metaphor for our business. We are committed to being in tune with our customers, to really scale intelligence. We want to orchestrate your data and compose winning strategies. And I'm sure all of you, I'm certain, in fact, that all of you want to sustain resilience in your organizations, right? So what are some other things in life that are certain? Ola said this morning, right, that change is constant. That's certain. But what are some other things that are certain in life? Anybody have an idea? Come on. Death, somebody said? Death and taxes, yes. That's true. Death and taxes, that's certain. And the guy who came up with this, right, Benjamin Franklin, who I guess you could say could be considered somewhat of a tech leader of his time, right? And then he got into politics. That could never happen today, right, though? That would happen, no? No? Some people got that, okay, good. I promise I will not do any Trump jokes, Jennifer, I won't do it. All right. There's one more certainty, though, that Benjamin Franklin didn't know about back in 1879. Anybody know what that is? What's the one thing he missed? Come on, we have a lot of engineers in here. It's an engineering-related topic. No? Right? He didn't know about the second law of thermodynamics. So what is that? Well, quite simply, it is things break. Everything is breakable. It can take months, for example, to craft a vase, but it will take, a second to smash it with a soccer ball, for example. But not just vases break, right? Everything breaks. The second law of thermodynamics is an equal opportunity destroyer. So if you think about it, right, things break, they break down, things get messy. I'll give you a few examples. I have 2 teenage daughters, so there's certainly a lot of broken hearts sometimes at home. And the way teenagers break up is plain weird, right? If you have a read, I don't know if you can read the text there, but it's a little bit different than back in my day. And some people, they just want to break up with their car, right, at all cost. You can get them at a discount now. To get serious, though, some disastrous examples here. Have a look at this this bridge. It's the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore that was hit by a ship last year. What happened here, right? There was two major problems. One was that the ship, due to poor maintenance, had mechanical issues that made it lose power and kind of lose steering and steered into the pier of the bridge. The other problem they found afterwards was that the bridge itself, due to poor design, had vulnerabilities in its design, which kind of caused a chain reaction that ultimately destroyed the bridge. And there are, of course, many, many more infamous examples like this. And we take a look at a short clip here that you've all probably have seen.
Jason, are you seeing this? We got flow out here.
Warning.
It's not stopping.
Hey, Jason, are you seeing this? Are they not telling you to do anything?
Is she just kicking or that?
Oh, clear the floor! Holy shit! Deep!
Pretty horrific, right? Dramatic. It's obviously the 2010 Deepwater Horizon incident, right? Killing 11 crew members and unleashing the largest marine oil spill in history. If you afterwards analyzed what happened there and what did they have and what didn't they have, they actually had a lot of the data, or all of the data, I would say. They had the right expertise, but the signals were scattered, right? The models weren't trusted. The data wasn't integrated, so alarms were ignored. It wasn't really a lack of information. It was a breakdown in integration of data, a failure to see clearly and therefore act decisively enough. And sometimes it's beyond our control, right? Nature just takes over. This is, you probably all saw this avalanche just a couple of weeks ago in Switzerland. Looking at the video here, right, you would think that casualties must have been very, very high, right? In reality, nobody died, because thanks to emergency notification systems, the village next to this was cleared a week before the avalanche happened. All right. So those were some examples, right, of faulty design, poor construction, inadequate maintenance, broken integration of data, and ultimately the inability to protect what matters. So kind of the second law of thermodynamics reminding us that everything breaks. And what though if we could break that second law? That's a bold ambition, right? Or are you resigned to the fact that everything breaks, that systems degrade, that this thing called the second law wins? But what if that's only half the story, and frankly the wrong half, if you ask me? What if by deploying connected, intelligent systems at scale, we could reverse this? What if failure in your business is not inevitable, but optional? So let's make another little test here to see if you're awake. Raise your hand if you prefer optional failure over inevitable failure. This should be 100% of the room, right? Come on. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that, because that's truly our mission at Octave. Our business model aims at removing the inevitability of failure by giving you the choice of resilience. We're not just building software here. We're not building some app. This is truly going to be the intelligence layer for the world's most vital systems. So instead of software that breaks when things change, we want to build the intelligence connected natively. Ultimately, we want it to evolve, adapt, predict, and prevent. So let's talk a second about intelligence before we go any further. And I kind of want to break down a little bit here the difference between what I call the intelligence hype and reality. You know, there was a conference here lately, right, with Microsoft, where some journalists took, what they took out of it was the death of SaaS, right? But if you listen to what the CEO there said, Satya Nadella, right, what he really said was very different, right? He said SaaS is evolving, and Microsoft is creating a factory of agents to help users get things done. So if we kind of take that a step further, adding my own view here a little bit, and what we think here at Octave is, you know, AI agents today are fundamentally blank agents, you know, generic tools. At Octave, we aim to deliver pre-trained agents for all our solutions. Today, agents are searching for data. With Octave, we build the data in. And a lot of these new agents are hoping for integration, right? We will build integration in natively. And if you look at a lot of these agents today, right, they say, ask me, we'll try. We say, we already know and act. So I would argue that at Octave, when we're building the intelligence in at scale, our goal is to build it embedded. It means it's bolted in the system. It needs to be context aware, right? Data without context is not much use, right? And like I said before, we're aiming at mission-critical systems and assets. Finally, we want to make it field-validated, right? Already in the field, already saving costs, already providing resilience. So ultimately, my argument is we don't need really to wait for some AI agent revolution. We're already doing what a lot of these agents aspire to do. So this is really our promise here today to our customers, that we will keep ourselves grounded in the truth so you guys can rise above the hype. So I wanted to share some other data here with you this morning. We did a study recently. We interviewed 400 of our C-suite executive customers about their key business challenges and their adoption of digital tools, where they are and how they see it and so on. And frankly, the results were not surprising to me, but they were a bit of a gut check also on what we need to prioritize. So I'm going to show you a couple of stats here that came out in the study. 1 in 5 companies, only 1 in 5 said they're getting full value from their digital transformation. And 76% of companies also said they're using more tools than ever, but with less alignment. And one leader said to us, you know, more software, more dashboards, more complexity, and yet less actual visibility. Systems that don't talk to each other are creating digital silos. So, kind of a personal reflection here. I mean, I've seen this for years. I think it's a bit of, you know, this buying more and more systems and different software without really connecting in. To me, it's what I call a sign of the shiny object syndrome. If you want to make it a bit, concrete and a little bit provocative, I would say, if you have data integration problems, a new VR headset won't solve the problem, right? It needs to start with the data. But let's look at some more comments that came out in the study. One customer said, tell me when my asset's sick before it dies. I don't need a snapshot, I need foresight. The people who know what's going wrong are retiring. And I thought about this morning when Ola talked about the population shrinking and so on, right? This is a real problem. And we've got more data than we ever need, but if it doesn't tell us what to do, it's just noise. And our factory has a digital twin, but it's mute. Okay. very quiet there. It's depressing stats. No. All right. So we've seen the data. We've heard these voices, right? We know what's breaking. But the most powerful ideas are not on slides, right? That's not where we learn. I think they're in conversations. So I'd like to try something different here this morning and have a bit of conversation. It's very simple. I have invited 4 customers, 4 leaders from 4 very different industries. And these people, they don't just manage complexity, they live in it every day in real time. They are not interested in hype, I can assure you that. They're interested in putting their data to work. So we will have some one-on-one, quick, rapid-fire conversations here. And there are no decks, no scripts. I have not, what do you say? I've not paid them to say anything. They will say whatever they want. So truly, we'll see how it goes. Real organic conversation. And I think it will be a lot of fun. So let me introduce our guests quickly. Our first one is Donald Lowest, who is the digital transformation manager for a company called Carmuse. They were started in 1860 as a small family-run business in Belgium. Today, they are a global operation with over 90 production facilities around the world, with core competencies in mining, equipment, and engineering solutions. Our second guest will be Colonel Mark Shelley, who is with Lee County Sheriff's Office. And he has over 24 years of law enforcement experience and has served in various capacities, including criminal investigations, narcotics, major crimes, special investigations, SWAT, and multiple positions in executive command. He was also the incident commander for Hurricane Ian and many other natural disasters. So I'm sure he will have some very interesting things to share. Our third guest is Wade McNab, who has been with a company called Lixil for over 20 years. They are a manufacturing company with over 53,000 employees around the world that makes pioneering water and housing products. Wade is the VP of Quality, and his job is to coach, mentor, develop, and lead quality professionals from the 5 commercial regions they have around the world. And finally, what do you say, last but not least, we have Joe Bonet, who comes from one of the world's largest EPCs, Worley. And Joe has been there as the, leading the engineering for the last 5 years, but recently he was promoted into a new position as the Vice President of Digital Project Delivery. And he works with these big, complicated projects and certainly knows, how important technology is and what needs to be done to not have them break down, etc. So, with no further ado, let me welcome the first guest to the stage, Donald.
Hello, Mattias.
Hey, morning. Good to see you.
Likewise, thank you for having me.
All right, have a seat.
Sure.
We're just having a little chat here. There's no audience here. We're just having...
I know, it's very intimate.
Yeah, thank you for coming to Vegas.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah,
Great
we appreciate it a lot. And, maybe to kick off, like I said there in the intro, your company has been around for 160 years, right? And if you think about that, there's not many businesses that have been around that long, right? Usually something happens and things break down before that. So how has your company been around so long, and what's the secret?
I think it boils down to 2 secrets. The first one is communication and engagement, not only with our customers, because we don't operate in a vacuum. We need to follow what our customers consider success and good services. But at the same time, we need to have operational excellence. So our plants, as you were saying, need to break less, right. need to be more resilient, and for us to be able to deliver more innovation, better price, and better services.
Right. So what is the thing in your business that absolutely can't break? What's the biggest risk?
That question made me think, and I would say it's the link in the chain that we are. We are in 5 different continents, delivering to 13,000 customers in 55 different industries.
Yeah.
We have different seasonality. It's a very local business. And so if we cannot deliver on our promises, our customer cannot deliver on theirs. So it's really ensuring that they have the added value that they expect out of us.
Right. So if we try to make it a bit concrete, right, for the crowd, do you have some story of like when things broke down?
I have one.
Yeah.
All it takes to take a kiln down for 5 days is a squirrel that wanted to touch the wrong 2 cables.
A squirrel?
That is something
Okay.
you cannot predict. And
Right.
if you can, my team is there, we are interested. But fixing that situation in the
Yeah.
middle of a good campaign for a customer without having a single health issue or security issue and being back online without impacting a single one of people relying on us
Yeah.
is what we consider excellence.
Okay, so what's your biggest vulnerability in your business? Like if you look at the...
I would argue isolation.
Yeah.
We follow the industry where they are. We are where the limestone is. So we are in remote areas with no connection to our support teams. So bringing data and knowledge and intelligence to our plants in order to support and empower our guys is, I think, the way forward.
Okay, so what's the promised land? I mean, what does good look like?
Good, I think, looks like being able to have foresight, looking at the future rather than having to deal with yesterday to deliver today.
Right.
It's having predictability where our broader team can act and deal with the problems before they arrive so that our customer don't even realize that something went wrong.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And what do you say? What if you could invest in one thing the next year or 2, what would that be? Where would you place your bets?
Maintenance, improving the way we optimize our assets and maintain them in order to reduce breakages, but also having more vision on our operations at scale rather than at plant level.
I like that. You're using that scale. I mean, it's, what do you say, contagious.
Yeah, indeed.
Good, cool. Thank you very much. That's my cue, I think. So
Well, see you later.
I'll leave it to you. Take it
Thank
away.
you.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing, brother?
Nice
Good
to see you again.
man. Yeah, nice to see you. Nice jacket. I
Thank
like
you.
it.
Well, I was the only one with a polo shirt. I felt pressured.
We shamed him into changing.
So tell me a bit more about yourself and your job.
So I'm a colonel at the Lee County Sheriff's Office down in beautiful Southwest Florida. I'm lucky enough to get to live down there. I'm in my 25th year. And luckily, I've been fortunate to do all kinds of different things in my agency to make an impact. So I'm very lucky in that respect.
And so on the topic of conversation, what is that you most don't want to break?
So for us, it's kind of a little bit of a cliche. It's like all of us. Once your data is everything to you and connectivity is everything to you. In my line of work, it's not just, something not working or functioning. Someone could actually lose their lives, or multiple people could. Without that data integrity, without the intelligence that we need for the units in the field, not only could our officers be at risk, but also the people we are there to serve and protect could ultimately lose a life. So these things are critical. This mission critical stuff that we're talking about, this company doing is critical to my industry.
I gotcha. And so do you have a specific example, I guess you do, that raised your blood pressure when things maybe went wrong?
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, if Hurricane Ian was an example, I know they brought that up, one of the worst natural disasters in U.S. history. Entire towns were washed away, literally. People were kayaking, paddleboarding from their 3rd story of their beach homes. Not something I thought I'd ever see in my life. But in that, we had 2, 3, 4, 500 submerged vehicles that we have to check. We have to make sure there isn't any bodies or anyone injured in those, plus hundreds and thousands of calls of missing people. And you're trying to tackle that problem without full connectivity all the time and without access to some of your data, which makes it a challenge. You have to go back to the old days of literally writing things down and trying to effectively communicate.
I gotcha. And so I would assume this is where things are still vulnerable. This is where things are in the way.
Yeah, that is vulnerable. Also, we're always a target for cyber attacks. Ultimately, there's always people trying to pose as law enforcement, pose as executive levels, because our data is very valuable and important, and they know it's a possibility. If they shut us down, they'll try to get some monetary gain out of that, which we would never do, by the way. But that's huge for us. So cybersecurity is a big vulnerability and something that I'm trying to stay ahead of every day.
Yeah, I gotcha. And so if you were to describe what it would be if things were right, what's the ideal future?
So for me, the ideal future is we have a big intelligence center that basically runs our entire policing strategy and all of our investigations. But in that room alone, I have 65, 68 different software programs, some of which are fully integrated, some of which are not, and analysts there that have to scrub the entire internet for information, all these things. I have sensors all over the place. I got LPR sensors, video sensors. I got drones flying to calls on their own. All these things are happening at once, but it's very difficult to see that in one pane of glass. For example, let's use a car stop for an example, right? So if a deputy is pulling up on a car stop, calls out a tag, walks up to that vehicle, if that body camera they're wearing could actually automatically see that LPR, run that person, gain some intelligence, actively get that back to him as him or her as they're approaching that vehicle to put them in a safer place, that would be amazing, phenomenal. Just merging all your data, all your sensors, and everything together to make the community a safer place.
Well, I never would have thought that we had similar problems, but definitely we do.
Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Nice talking with you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Talk to you soon.
Yeah, good job. My man Wade.
Mark, good to see you.
How you doing, buddy?
Nice job.
Good to see you. Yeah, thanks.
See if I can stand up to the pressure.
I think you got it,
In
man.
the hot seat.
So tell a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so Lixel company is about 50,000 employees around the world, 150 countries. You may not have ever heard the name Lixel before, but I think you would recognize some of our products. Big brands known as American Standard, bath and kitchen products. We have a German brand known as Grohe, so this is bathing products, showering systems. So that's what we do. 40 facilities around the world. Imagine each facility makes somewhere around 1 million, 1.5 million pieces per year. Some of our facilities over 3.5 million.
That's a lot of toilets, Wade.
That's a lot of ceramics, that's a lot of faucets, that's a lot of everything.
Yeah.
We always wonder where these go, but that's a different point.
So in your industry and what you do every day, what causes you heartburn? What is the thing that might keep you up at night that you're worrying about?
I think you have to answer that question in the context of what position you're in today. So I've moved recently from quality into EHS. So that's a whole different thing that I think you're more familiar with than maybe I am at this moment. So let's focus on the quality side. So in a factory, absolutely the last thing we could have happen, the factory shut down for some reason. So we have a ton of intelligence around how our machines operate, and we're at the right parameters for every piece of equipment. But we also have people involved in the process. So imagine for a second, you have 20 seconds to look at a piece as you're scanning it with your own eyes.
Yep.
No automation, purely manual. That piece then goes in the box and out to a customer. The worst thing that can happen to us, we disappoint the customer, which means either we're selling to someone who maybe they're installing our products in a hotel like this. Tons of use, has to work perfectly every single time, or else the guest gets annoyed, then the hotel property manager gets annoyed, then we get the phone call.
You don't want to flood a hotel.
That's the last phone call. You don't want to flood the hotel during a big conference with who knows how many people, right? So those are the things we worry about. How do we make sure we have quality out the door every single time, and the customer is using it the way we think the customer will use it?
Yeah, so where do you think you're vulnerable? Like what what obstacles are still in your way that challenges you every day?
I think the biggest challenge we have is with the people themselves. So imagine a factory has a tremendous amount of turnover, and tremendous could mean anything above a few percent. Because now the new person in the job needs to have the right skills, the right tools, right training. So people are our vulnerability. So how do we take everything we want to capture about the digital information, we've all heard the digital twin. How do we put that in practice? How do we ramp a person up at every single skill level that we need throughout the plant? That, I think, is our biggest vulnerability.
I think that's a challenge everywhere. I know I have the same thing.
I bet you do.
Yeah. So in the utopia of toiletry, what is if you could have everything? You know, today I could snap my fingers and give you everything you ever wanted. What would that be? What would that look like?
So we had a interesting discussion with our friends at ETQ. So we're an ETQ customer, one of the divisions. We're talking about where do we go next with our data, because we spent a tremendous amount of time capturing data to understand what our customers are doing with the product, challenges they have. Amazingly, data brought us to a conversation with multiple functions around the company on how we do things better. So visibility and communication is critical for us, and we're living it every single day. So now, how do we take that same level of communication and go to the next level? Awesome. I love the term Octave, the name Octave, right?
Yeah,
the next
great.
level. Perfect.
Take it up to the next notch.
All right, I think it's...
Good job, Wade.
I think we have someone else now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We'll see
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Hey, Wade.
Welcome, Joe.
Thank
Good to
you
see
very
you.
much.
Please, have a seat.
Appreciate it. Big
So,
crowd.
yeah, big crowd, and you know, you're the last one, so you've had a chance to listen to everyone else's answers. Maybe you have a perspective on your business, as complex as it is. What keeps you up at night? What do you worry most about in terms of what the audience would love to hear?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Wade. Good picture on the screen there. It exemplifies some of the work that Worley does. We work in the energy, chemicals, and resources space, and we deliver projects for customers that then go and basically operate these facilities that we all rely upon, whether it's the oil and gas or these days hydrogen, might be a biofuel. Our company has to prepare the designs and complete the projects for that. And for that, we rely upon digital solutions, just as the other compares have been mentioning. So that's a big part of who we are, and our people can no longer effectively deliver the projects in the time frames that we have to deliver them in without the tools. And the tool set is complex. I'm sure you can all attest to that in your own businesses. So for us, that's the big thing, the tool set.
The tools themselves. So we're talking not one or two, we're talking hundreds, maybe even thousands of tools, as we heard a little bit earlier today.
Yeah, correct. Unfortunately, no one software provider can give us all the tools that we need in our industry. There's a multitude of tools. So we've got upwards of 1,000 different pieces of digital technology that we use, different software, and that just introduces so much complexity. You can imagine trying to get all that information to synchronize and communicate with one another and be integrated. It's hugely complex.
And so where do you still feel you're most vulnerable? If you've had all this integration done, is it one or two integrations, or is there something else that makes you worry?
Yeah, I worry a lot about just the numbers. You know, when you think of the numbers that we have to deal with, it introduces so much complexity. And we've got nearly 50,000 people in Worley operating across 45 odd countries. At any one time, we've got 10,000 projects on the go, and they're all different. They're not the same. It's not a cookie cutter approach. It's a lot of bespoke work that we're doing. And then lay on that all the software that we're using. All these numbers are just introducing this massive vulnerability in terms of any one part in the chain can break. And then add to that the expectation these days that our project delivery professionals and our customers, they just expect this all to work. So there's a lot that goes on in the background to keep the lights on effectively.
Sure. So if you push the easy button, if you have the utopian world, I think is what Mark used a second ago with me, what's the perfect scenario? Maybe not solution, but what makes the world better for you and your teams and your company?
Yeah, look, the perfect scenario for us is probably around being able to focus on the innovation and the visionary things that we want to do by not having the breakages occur. Because when the breakages occur, they just all consuming, and it's all hands basically to the pumps to rectify those problems. So for us, the nirvana is having as few breakages as possible. So the topic today really resonated with me,
sure.
and as it has with you, I'm sure, as well.
Sure.
So for us, it's just making sure that the breakages are kept to a minimum, that we partner with good software providers like Hexagon, and Mattias did ask me to say that, by the way. I think there was some payment coming here.
Exactly, I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, quite frankly, it really is about partnering with good providers and just having less breakages.
That's perfect. There we go. And on time.
Yeah, good.
Thank you. I think Mattias is coming back to see you.
Yeah, thanks. So we're going to have Mattias come in just to help wrap us up.
Wow, thank you. That was interesting to listen to.
I'm glad.
So what do you say? While I have the chance here, you have to agree with me, in front of everybody. No, but what I wanted to say. No, but I wanted to say is, we have obviously a lot of great customers. We have decades of partnerships with many, and obviously with you guys. But I think especially in the last few years, we work closely together. I mean, if you don't mind saying something about that.
Can you give me that first? So look, quite frankly, we deal with so many software providers. We've been working tirelessly with numerous of them. Hexagon is a huge provider for us. We use a large number of their tools, but they're core to what we do. It's actually been quite enjoyable because we've made decisions to deliberately spend more time together and basically be really open and frank in our communications. No vaporware, tell us the truth. Is this product really going to work? We're collaborating together on SDX2, your next generation of tool set. And yeah, it's just been really pleasant to have someone that we can just work together really closely and build a partnership, basically. So I really appreciated your time in doing that, Mattias.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you later. Okay. So, yeah, thanks to Joe and thanks to all the customers. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was really, really interesting. And if you listen closely to those guys, I think maybe you would recognize there was a pattern, right? They're all facing systems that are aging, data that's multiplying, and risks that's rising. And they're not satisfied with just reacting anymore. They want to get ahead of it, right? And I think that's what this moment requires, right? You don't beat failure with dashboards. You beat it with foresight, speed, and intelligence. And somebody said, in the midst of hype, clarity is rebellion. So I would argue if clarity is rebellion, Octave is a born rebel. So let's move off the AI agent hype to the really important shift we should all be paying attention to. And if you missed it, right, it happened recently. It wasn't quiet, but maybe subtle. It didn't explode onto the scene like the internet or the smartphone. It kind of crept in through your control room, your field sensors, your dashboards. What am I talking about? I'm talking about something I like to call the mirror world. This is a world where nearly everything physical now has a digital counterpart. Every valve, every turbine, every train, every city, every process, everything, right? And in that mirror, we're not just watching, we're starting to predict. If you think about how we always operated, we looked backwards, right, to understand what went wrong. In the mirror world, we look forward. We used to wait for systems to fail. Now we can see failure forming before it hits. We used to hand off knowledge through documents, binders, and word of mouth, right? Now we embed it in systems that remember, that simulate, that adapt. In the mirror world, hindsight becomes foresight. So I would argue it's not some software upgrade, right? It's a new way of thinking. So let's be honest though, right? Just having a mirror isn't enough. You can build a perfect replica of your asset. But if that replica doesn't have intelligence, you haven't built a digital twin. You have built a digital museum, right? It looks right, it maps well, but it's silent. It doesn't warn you, it doesn't learn, it doesn't improve. A digital twin without intelligence is just a reflection. What we need is a system that can change the outcome. So, I would argue that the mirror world is no longer science fiction. It's the new normal. It's the big shift towards the hope for an unbreakable world. And like with any big shift, right, there will always be winners and losers. So we really want to help here all our customers and create a culture of winning companies. So what does winning look like? I would say winners will see assets as part of living, learning ecosystems. These companies will always design and build digitally first. They will transform their operations and maintenance from being reactive to predictive. And they will protect their assets with self-aware infrastructure for resilience. So, to close this presentation out, I would like to share a story from back home, Sweden. I always need to get a story about Sweden in my keynotes. We'll find a way in there somehow. And this story is about a famous landmark in Sweden called the Öresund Bridge. It's the iconic link between the city of Malmö in Sweden and Copenhagen in Denmark. And it's not only a wonder of engineering, it's a symbol of connection and possibilities. Yet, beneath all the graceful elegance, it's 8 kilometers of steel and concrete. It carries risks, right? Every day, there's tens of thousands of vehicles passing this bridge, including trains. It has to stand up to the harsh elements of nature. Salt water, wind, freezing temperatures. Sweden is a cold place, right, sometimes. So, what sets it apart, though? It has wires of sensors run the whole length into a live digital twin. This system isn't ticking boxes, it's scanning for fatigue, detecting stress before fractures form. And several years back, a subtle but consistent vibration pattern emerged. Nothing alarming, but out of place. The mirror world flagged it. Engineers inspected. They discovered early-stage micro cracks. Not failures yet, but on the path to risk and possible disaster. But because they were early citizens of the mirror world, the bridge remained open, traffic kept flowing, no emergency repairs, no disruptions. A quiet success, built on foresight, not reaction. Someone built a mirror and gave it intelligence so that it wouldn't break. So, to me, this is clear proof that an unbreakable world is possible. So, I think this is where our customers can finally break from the past. We've all inherited systems that were built to break. We've been programmed to assume that chaos and failure are inevitable, that accepted downtime, disruption, and decay is normal cost of doing business. But that's why Octave exists. That's what we want to help you with. To find continuous harmony in your data, to compose a score that resonates with your outcomes, to give you not just insight, but foresight. Not just digital museums, right? But real intelligence at scale. So together with you, we're going to orchestrate what the last era didn't, an unbreakable world. Thank you very much. Enjoy the conference.